Correct.
Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She's the author of the book Grief is the Price You Pay for Love, no other than Miss Cyndee Dhalai. Welcome to Book 101, Miss Cyndee, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Hi, my name is Cyndee Dhalai, like Daniel said. Um, I'm a writer and poet. Uh, I am a retired school teacher. I live in Trinidad and Tobago, which is probably most people really don't know about or haven't heard about, but it's in the Caribbean. And I have had a lot of life experiences. And grief is a price you pay for love is my story of how I dealt with or learned to manage grief after the loss of someone I loved very, very much.
Miss Cyndee Dhalai, thank you so much for sharing your book to the world. And we are looking for more and more and more empowering book like this. So what is the central message of grief is the price you pay for love?
The central message is that grief and loss are a fact of life, and how we deal with it or how we learn to manage it is very important because let's face it, nobody wants to lose someone, whether it's a relationship, whether it's somebody you love, whether it's a job, because all those involve loss and grief. But the important thing is that you have to realize that bad things will happen in life and you will suffer loss, but you have to learn that you are still here and that love is very, very important. Well, in this case, I'm referring to the loss of someone, whether it's a relative, a parent, a husband, a spouse, a relationship, that love is the most courageous thing you can actually do in your whole life. And it's important that when you face a loss that you go through it, you learn to accept it and you agree with your loss and you treasure the memory of what you had, but you have to remember that you are still here and that you can manage it and not everybody grieves the same way or it doesn't go away magically and say, okay, fine, time has passed, the whatever. You'll always feel the loss of someone. It's messy, it's personal, but it's important also to remember that you treasure the memory of the person, but you also have to remember that you are important too.
Yes, indeed. Very well said, Miss Cindy. Very well said. Beautifully articulated. So, Miss Cindy, how does William G. Hoy define grief in the book?
Excuse?
How do you define grief in the book?
Grief is the absence of someone or something that affects you in a level that you never expected before. And what people don't seem to realize about grief is that yes, it's the absence, the physical absence of somebody, but it's also the absence of that connection you find. Because your mind is still going back to like, and your emotions are still, you still feel them in you. But it's just the the physical presence is absent. And you can't detach yourself from someone just because they're not physically there. especially if you're intellectually and mentally connected to someone. And so grief is a very, very messy process. And it's a process that everybody goes through, whether you lose a pet, whether you lose a job, like I told you, whether you lose a best friend, whether you lose a job. All those, you go through grief through all those things in different ways. But basically, you do grieve because you do feel a loss of something. So grief
Certainly.
basically is the absence of something. It's the feelings you get in yourself when things change and you have a connection to something, and all you know is the removal of what was.
Totally agree, Miss Cindy. So, in what ways does the book challenge traditional views of grief?
It challenges traditional ways of grief in that people seem to think that, okay, you follow these steps, you do these things, and and it'll get better. And if you give it a certain amount of time, and that has always been a traditional view. You go through these stages, you do these things, and you know and it's okay to know, like, to not talk about it, and you have to learn to do. No, through my process of feeling the absence of someone, what I've come to realize is that, listen, grief doesn't follow a set pattern. Sometimes you'll be fine and you'll feel anger, you'll feel hatred sometimes, you'll get pulled down when you think you're managing, you feel denial, you don't want to think somebody's gone, but yet you know they're not there. Yes, and the thing is, it's not as if you're going to be, okay, first I'm going to deny it, then I'm going to feel anger, then I'm going to hate the person, then I'm going to do, and then I'm going to be all better. It doesn't work like that. It is totally mixed up. And one thing you do know is that you never get over grief. People will say, okay, you can heal it. No, you learn to manage it. You learn to live with it. You don't heal from it, because you will always feel that loss inside of you.
Totally agree. 100%, Miss Cindy. So, what does the title Ruin into the Fire Discover Me in the Ashes symbolize?
Run into the fire. Run into the fire means that that's a process where you, as an individual, because grief is personal, you can't look at somebody and say, okay, well, they got through it, I could get through it too. Because remember, we're all individuals. We don't feel the same way. We don't respond the same way to anything that happens in life. Because we all have our own processes and our own way of looking at things and views and stuff. So run into the fire, discover me in the ashes. What that means is that you have to go through the process yourself. You can't push it down. You can't say, well, okay, that's the past. That part of my life is over. Now it's time for me to. It's not that easy. You have to deal with each emotion and all the side effects that come up with it, because tangential things do come up. You don't just feel the absence of the person you lost, or if you lost a job even, you don't just feel that. Your mind is like a library. It'll pull out all the books of all the things that are related to that grief or that loss, and it's going to go back to, oh, well, remember when you lost your friendship with your friend, and you lost this one, or you lost your pet, and you lost you lost a job or whatever, and your mind will go back to all, and it will keep pulling you down, and you have to go through that, and you have to learn to accept. But most important, you have to learn to agree with your loss, and that's what a lot of people don't do. So when you have to run through the fire, that means you have to go into yourself and deal with every emotion that comes up. But at the same time, you do have to learn to differentiate between dealing with your emotions, experiencing what you feel, and wallowing in self-pity. Because that's where a lot of people get pulled into. There's, oh, poor me. Yes, I lost somebody. Why don't everybody understand that I lost somebody? And this is how it's always going to be for the rest of my life. And they just give up. And that's why I said discover me in the ashes, because before, like, if you were in a relationship, whether it's a marriage or a relationship, and there's a breakup or a loss of somebody passing away, it used to be We, you and me, were we. But now it's just me. So it's kind of like you have to relearn yourself on a different level. You understand what I mean? So that's how,
Certainly, yes,
yeah.
certainly, Miss Cindy. So, how did you blend personal experience and professional insight in the approach to grief?
Um, Throughout life, I've had a lot of experiences in a lot of areas in life, not just with like loss. If you've known, like, at three different stages in life, you have life experiences, rejection, ostracism, criticism, and I've had to deal with all these things on different levels, right? And nobody wants to be told a few days after your husband died, why didn't you die instead, right? And it does jolt you a bit. And what I did was that I used, you see, every time you go through something, it is not as if life is beating you down. Because sometimes you go through things, it may not be your fault, things happen. But every time you go through something, the key is to try to learn something from it. And every experience I've had, I realize has built me up a bit more and make me stronger and make me see, okay, yeah, this happened, but I grew through it, I moved through it, so that I am stronger. And it gave me a different perspective because I always say I see through my own eyes, because why should I see an empty glass? Okay, you drink a glass of water and you said, okay, that's what it's done, there's no more. But if you ever turn the glass over, you'll always see there's always one drop left. There's always one
Certainly.
drop left. So that's how you learn to do it. I blended the lessons I learned because this is what gave me strong backbone. And it made me strong in myself, and everything I've been through has helped. And that is what I use to put everything together, because that is how I got through it actually. And I learned, not got through, but that's how I learned to manage with every day as it comes along.
So, Miss Cindy, let's talk about emotional and psychological themes of the book. What are some common emotional responses to grief discussed in the book?
Um, Despair, helplessness, anguish, and you do feel a bit of resentment because you feel lost because you're suddenly all by yourself. You know, you don't understand how it happened. You don't think it's unfair. You think life is unfair. You think that this should not have happened to me. Why does it have to happen to me? And you do get resentful because you think, haven't I been through enough? Why do I have to suffer these things now? Why is this happening? And you do feel angry at the person and at God too, because you say, why? I mean, why does it have to happen to everybody else? Why did it have to happen to me? You know, why do I have to go through this anguish? Why does this have to be with me? And then you criticize yourself too, because you said, okay, I'm weak, that I'm just going to go through all this pain. This is all I'm going to know for the rest of my life. And you start feeling sorry for yourself. And those are some of the things I discussed in it. And the mental thing is that sometimes we get caught in the cycle of, okay, yes, I'm going to try. This happened. I'm going to deal with it. And then you hear a song or somebody says something, and you end up in this mental cycle of, okay, you tell yourself, I'm not going to think about it, but something happens, and then you find yourself slipping. And then you think about it, and then another thing comes up, and you find yourself going down and down, deeper, deeper mentally, as you keep recycling all the time, because you keep giving in to your emotions. And now it is okay to feel. It's okay to recognize that it hurts a lot, and this, I can't change anything about this, but at the same time, you have to realize that, listen, I also have things in my life. I have a responsibility. I have a house to see about, or I might have children to see about, or I might have a job, or I might have things to do, things that require your attention. And so you have to learn to kind of balance it. And that's why I put some tips in it about the fact that, yes, you can allow yourself to grieve. Yes, it is okay to feel these emotions. But at the same time, you have to think about this is not how I want to spend the rest of my life, being stuck in this pit.
Very well said, Miss Cyndee. Very well said. So, how does grief connect us more deeply to love?
Because, like I said, love is the most courageous thing you can do. And that is an inherent part of human nature. We all need connections. We all yearn from connections because that's how we've always been. It's always been like, ever since time began, we've always had a connection to human beings. And you see, when you love, that is the most courageous thing you can do, because it's not as if you're giving someone a material thing. You're giving something from within yourself. And when you give a part of yourself to someone, that is the most precious gift you can give, because it is giving of you. And you understand the risk that you can also lose, because that's how it is. You can love someone, but life happens. And you can lose them, whether they leave you, whether they die, or whatever. Because just as you love, you can lose it. And that's how grief connects to love, in that it's a risk you take when you love someone, actually. You give a part of yourself. And like I said, that's the most courageous thing you can do, because you're giving of yourself and you don't really know what's going to happen, because life is unpredictable. There are no guarantees in life at all.
Yes, life is too short. So let's talk about practical reflection and support of the book. What practical advice does you offer for those in the midst of grieving?
Well, some of the things that I mentioned in the book is the fact that, like, the first thing I said is that you have to accept that your grief is personal. Not everybody is going to understand it. People are going to tell you, okay, listen, you should be past it by now, get over it. People are going to tell you, well, yes, we understand that the person is gone, but don't you think you should be doing something else now, or whatever. But you see, whilst people love you and they want to support you, they don't feel what you feel. And sometimes you yourself think that, okay, look, this person got through this already, and this person lost someone, and look, they're in a much better position. Why am I still in this stage? Why am I still feeling this way? And you have to accept that you grieve on your own, at your own speed, in your own way. Grief is very, very personal. It's very messy, and it will always be with you, right? So you have to accept that. Now, whilst you're accepting that, like I mentioned before, you don't let it own you. Because when you let that grief own you, in a sense that they control every single aspect of your life, and it begins to affect your relationship with other people, say your children, or your job, or even your own relationship with yourself or God, right? That is when grief owns you. And you have to tell yourself, okay, yeah, it's okay to feel. And the thing is, you have to actually talk to yourself, because you are with yourself 24 hours a day. So you can talk to a million people, psychologists, trauma counselors, your friends, support groups, everything. But the most important, you have to talk to yourself, because it'll go in one ear and come out the next ear. But when you sit with yourself and you talk to yourself and you own it and you said, yes, this is my loss, this is my grief, and I feel it, but then you said, okay. And the thing is, you have to make actual notes. You have to start writing it down. It's important to write. This is hurting so much now. Why is it hurting me so much? How exactly do I feel? I'm angry. I feel an anger. And you spend at least a few minutes a day just writing it down. And then on the flip side of that, while you write down your pain and your anguish and stuff like that, on the other side, you write down, but I'm thankful that I have my children. I can still be here for my children. I'm thankful that I get to remember this person. And you can write down the good memories you had with this person. So while at the same time you're feeling your loss, you're also acknowledging the beauty of what you have. So you're kind of balancing it off. I know that sounds kind of strange to many people, but that is, you see, life is about balance. And if you don't find a balance, you flip either way. And yeah.
Thank you so much, Miss Cindy, for your advice. So, what will be your short-term and long-term goals in writing?
Well, I finished the book for the Price of Pick Up, and like I plan to write more because like the people I've spoken to, like they told me that, listen, you really should write more because you have insight. Your insight is a lot different from most people, and they think a lot of people will connect it because this is real life. It isn't like I'm just writing for writing's sake. I write what I feel, and I love writing poetry. So I have like another book that I'm finishing up, and another poetry book that I'm putting together actually. So I plan to write, but the thing is, it's all going to be like on personal, everyday things, practical things that affect real life, real people.
Yes. Good luck to your goal, Miss Cindy, and we are looking for more and more empowering books like this. So let's talk about philosophical or spiritual insight of the book. What does the book say about finding meaning after loss?
From a spiritual point of view of it, is that you have to realize that there are no coincidences in life, and that every time you fall, have you ever wondered how you pick yourself up? How have you ever wondered how did things change around? Because you have to realize that you didn't come into this world by yourself, actually. You came into a ready made world. But where did the world come from? And yeah, we breathe, but how did we get the ability to breathe? Who told us? Who told our bodies to just stop breathing when we were born? Nobody told us that. We just did it. And there must be some higher consciousness, God, or whoever you want to call him. But it is there. And I do know for myself because things have happened in my life where it was unbelievable. And there's no way on earth it could have happened because medically, I am not supposed to be here. Because my body has a lot of illnesses in it. And I did flatline a few times. And no doctor can do anything for me because I'm allergic to all medication. Yet, I have lived for the past, since my last episode in 2013, I have lived since then without going to a doctor, without any medication. And like, I have lupus. My body has lupus. My body has psoriasis. My body has anemia. My body has asthma. And I don't take any medication because I can't. I'm allergic. It will kill me. And yet I'm here talking to you and nobody knows that I'm sick because I'm quite sure you look at me and you'll never think there's anything wrong with me.
Yes. So, Miss Cindy, how does grief connect us to our humanity and shared experiences?
Grief connects us to humanity because it shows us that life is unpredictable and nobody knows how long you're going to be here on earth for. I could be talking to you here now and next minute I'm not here anymore. You see, we don't control our lives. And grief shows us that nothing is permanent. Life is impermanence. And I wrote this in LinkedIn. I don't know why I just did. I said, from the moment from birth, when your first breath is taken, death begins to move towards you. And what really is important is what we do in between with the time that we are given. Because from the moment we are born, we begin to die. We don't know how long we're going to be here. And I mean, those are two facts of life. You born, you die. Everything that's a fact of life for everything, actually. And I mean, I don't mean to sound harsh or cruel or, whatever, but Those are facts of life. And what is important is what we do in between that time. And with grief, what it shows us is that we have to learn to treasure and to value not just our achievements or what we want to do, but we have to value what is important. And what is more important than human connection, than being the best version of who you could be? Because when you die, you can't take all your money with you, you can't take all your possessions with you. And what do people remember? Oh, well, he was so rich, or she was so rich, or she went all of his. No, they don't remember that. They're going to remember she was a very nice person. He was understanding. He supported me when I needed it. He was a good friend. That is what people remember. Your impact. They don't remember your possessions. They remember your impact on their lives. And that is what is important. We have to learn to treasure what we have right now.
Yes, Miss Cyndee, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, Food 101, in its fifth season, People Fifth Season, with Chef Alessandro, one of the specialty chef in one of the five-star hotel in downtown Toronto. Please do listen to our latest episode. We are reading our letter senders all over the world. So please do listen, Food 101, wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Cyndee, what does it mean to discover someone in the ashes, and how that reshape our memory of them?
Like, when you said you discover yourself, discover me in the ashes means that you rediscover yourself. You discover your inner strengths, and you discover, because, okay, you lost someone, you went through the whole turmoil and maelstrom of being drawn into your grief, and you are still here. So you have to decide, what do I want to do now? Where do you see, you have to learn to create space, because like I said, you are still here. And you have to say, is this where I want to be, in the same place, or is this all that my life is going to be? What do I want to do? What do I see? And you have to create space to give yourself a chance to live. And you can look into different things that probably you could do things that you never did before, or you can take up things that with your friends, or activities like walking, or doing a new hobby, or joining a group and supporting people, or whatever. But that's how you discover yourself. You have to give yourself a chance to grow. Because remember, life is through stages, and in every stage of life, you grow from a child, a teenager, a young adult, a middle-aged person, and then you get old. So you go through stages, and in each stages, you have to learn to become a better version of yourself. And one of the most important things is not what am I going to get out of everything? It's how can I, with what I have learned and my experiences, support and give to other people.
Miss Cyndee Dhalai, thank you so much for sharing your empowering book to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your book?
Hi. Well, my book is available on Amazon.com. It is Grief is the Price You Pay for Love, and it is by Faialian, which is the pen name that I used, Faialian. And it is not just a book about grieving for somebody you lost. It can also be applicable to loss of relationship, loss in job, whatever. And I personally think that it is a good book. If you read the reviews, you'll see that on Amazon I've gotten a lot of 5-star reviews. And from the impact that I've got from personal people who bought the book, I mean, it is very helpful. And I would like you to, if you need it, and if you think it's something that you need to learn about yourself, or you need to come into yourself with regard to a loss, get the book and you'll see.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Cyndee Dhalai, because if you support her, more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Miss Cyndee, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Daniel. It was very nice being on the show with you.
More to come, people. See you soon.